All right, in this lesson, I'll introduce the drop duplicates method, which can be helpful for kind of using the same operations as the duplicated method offers us, but the drop duplicates method can be called on a data frame instead of a series. So it allows us to do some of those similar filtering operations in a few less lines of code. Let's begin by re-executing the code from the previous lesson, and I still have that sort values method in there in order to have the names in the first name column sorted alphabetically. That just allows us to see some of the duplicates that pop up, such as the first name right here of Aaron that occurs at least 3 times in our data frame. So I'll actually begin by passing my df data frame into Python's built-in len function. This will give me the number of rows in this data frame as it currently is. And we see that we have 1,000 rows. Now, my logic here is that I'm thinking, let's say I'm just coming into this brand new, I have no clue how drop duplicates works. I think that as soon as I call drop duplicates, I'm going to have all of my duplicates removed. And so there's my brand new data frame. But let's say I pass it again into len to see how many rows are in my new deduped data frame. Well, I'm actually going to get the exact same number. There's still 1,000 rows even after the drop duplicates method has been called. Why is this? Well, the reason is because it doesn't matter if a duplicate value occurs in a single column. For example, we know for a fact that we have the same first names in the first name column. We know we have duplicates in gender. We know we have duplicates in senior management. We know we have duplicates in marketing, right? It's only going to remove those rows, however, where the cells across all of the columns are identical in more than one row. And there's no 2 rows in this data frame where the first name and the gender and the start date and the last login time and the salary and all of the other columns are equal. So we may have the same values across 1 column or 2 columns or even 5 columns, but there's no 2 rows where the values are exactly identical. So no rows are being removed by default with this drop duplicate method's default arguments. We have to provide a little bit more customization in order to get what we want. So let's say I want to, once again, remove duplicate first names from my data frame. I'm going to use df.dropDuplicates. There is an underscore in that method. All methods conclude with a set of parentheses. And let's take a look at our documentation with Shift-Tab. Our very first parameter here is subset, and it's set to none by default. Subset accepts a list of strings, and those strings can represent the names of the columns in which we want to check for duplicates. So if I only enter first name, it's only going to look through the values in my first name column. Now keep in mind, we also have an additional parameter here called keep, and it functions exactly the same as it does on the duplicated method. And you can see its default argument, which I'm going to write out, is set to first. What that means is it's not going to remove a row even if it occurs more than once, even if it's a duplicate. It's going to keep the first occurrence of that value regardless. So for example, if I take a look at this, you can see that we're only going to have one Aaron value. Even though Aaron occurs more than once in our first name column, it is a duplicate value. The reason is because it's still keeping the first occurrence of Aaron. That's why it's keep equals first. Keep the first occurrence of each value, even if it is duplicate, even if it is unique. So some of these names may actually occur legitimately once in our column, while some of these may occur multiple times, but from Panda's perspective, it's only looking at the first time it runs into it, and those are being marked as non-duplicates. Conversely, if we replace this with last, you'll see that we'll still have Aaron present, but it's going to keep the last occurrence of Aaron on row 937. So again, we're not going to see any name more than once here because we have removed duplicates, but we've still kept the first, or in this case, the last occurrence of each duplicate. Now, if we want to perform an operation where we remove a row if there's a duplicate in the first name column, period, we don't care if it occurs 2 times or 5 times. If it occurs more than once, we want those rows gone, period. We can replace this last argument again with false. That's going to be a Boolean without quotes. And now we'll see because Aaron and Adam and Alan and all those names occur more than once, it's not going to keep the first occurrence. It's not just going to keep the last occurrence. It's going to completely remove those rows because those names appear more than once in our original data frame. And here we again have a pretty shortened data frame that has only those names that occur once, period, throughout our entire data frame. Now you have to be pretty careful here. I actually want to do another example that'll be kind of funny. If a value is completely non-unique, what's going to happen is you're going to get a blank data frame. For example, let's say I want to perform this drop duplicates operation, and I want to perform it on my team column. And the team column actually does include null values. It does have those NaN designations, and the duplicate rules do apply to those null values as well. If it has more than one null value, it's going to count them as the same thing. But let's say I use my keep equals false setting here. What's actually going to happen is we're going to get an empty data frame. And the reason is because there's no single team value that only occurs once in that team column. Whether it's marketing or finance or business development, all those values occur more than once. There's no unique ones. So that keep argument is not going to keep any duplicates. It's going to completely wipe them out. So just keep that in mind whenever, if you're using this method and you're seeing these bizarre empty data frames, that's why. And just one more thing I want to emphasize, if you want to sort, or rather look at the duplicates across multiple columns, if for example I want to look at both first name and team, what I mean by that is I don't care if the first name is the same but the team is different, and I don't care if the team is the same but the first name is different. Only if those two values are the same in those two columns do I want to remove it. I can pass them in as values within this comma-separated list that I provide as the argument to my subset parameter. And what that's going to do is, again, it's going to keep Aaron and male here. Now we're going to have two occurrences of Aaron because the team is different in each case. So the other two Aarons that must have been removed must have had one of these teams as well, and that's why those rows have been removed. So it's going to perform that duplicate dropping operation while looking at the values across two columns. And it's not limited to two, by the way. You can continue adding commas here and additional values if you want to look at duplicates across 3 columns or 4 columns. And as always, the drop duplicates method does not modify the original data frame. If we want to do that, it does have an in-place parameter. We can set that to true if we want to overwrite it. And then we're going to have our deduped df data frame, which we can prove is definitely at least shorter than our original one, so we can confirm that at least some rows have been removed. So that's the drop duplicates method. Be sure to watch out for a lot of the little tricks and traps that lie with this method. Keep in mind you have to usually use that subset parameter to specify what you want to look for. Remember that that keep parameter can affect what you're going to get back. By itself, it's not going to remove all the rows that have duplicates. You have to put false for that if you want to strictly remove those rows. So just watch out and be careful when you're playing around with this method.